Hi, my name is Trey Brimmer. I'm with Mitel. Today we're going to go over the 6900 series of phones. Your particular site has all three styles, so we're going to kind of try to combine those together to do one training session for you because the phones do work a lot alike. There's a few features that are a little bit different, mostly on how you navigate through things. But we'll kind of go over those differences, and I think you will be able to show you all the functionality of all three styles of phones. So a few things before we get started that you might want to take note of. One is you'll no longer need a 1 to dial 800 or long distance. You'll just go ahead and dial the area code and phone number, or 800 in the phone number. You won't need a 1, but you will need to dial the area code for both local and long distance now. So if before you're just able to dial the phone number without the area code, you'll have to dial the area code. You'll need a 9 for outgoing, so 9 and then the area code and phone number for an outside line. You can dial 911 or you can dial 9911. So even though we have a 9 for outgoing, if you are in a panic and you just dial 911, that will work also. If you do dial 911 by mistake, which sometimes happens when we cut over these phone systems, don't hang up. Stay on the line, because even though you think you maybe dialed it and you realized it quickly and slammed down the phone, you probably didn't do it quick enough to not get dispatched or them calling you back. And it can end up being fines depending on where you live. So you might want to go ahead and make sure that you stay on the line and just let them know it was a mistake. Your default passcode for your voicemail is 4 ones. So 1111 will get you into your voicemail for the first time. And once you go in for the first time, it's going to help you set up a new passcode that can be 4 to 12 digits, and put in your name and put in your greeting. So it'll walk you through a tutorial that'll help you with that. But initially, when you first want to go in, you're going to use that 1111. And as we go through the phone, I'll show you where that voicemail key is, and and get you started and set up on that. You may want to clear out your old mailboxes before the cutover. So if you have a lot of saved messages that are proprietary to the company, you might want to go ahead and clear those out, because you never know where these voicemail systems or the old phone system might go, and it's just best to be safe. So let's just kind of look at each of the phones just so you know what they look like. So this is the 6940 phone. The biggest difference between this phone and the other phones we're going to be looking at is this is touchscreen. So you won't need a little navigation tool that you're going to see on the other phones. There's a little circle, silver circle you may see on your phone that allows you to kind of scroll through different selections. On this, you just press the screen. So that's really nice. And it also comes standard with a cordless handset, so you don't have the cord on there, which is kind of nice. On the cordless handset, you have the ability to hang up, and then there's a toggle for up and down volume, and the very center of that key will mute. So you have some functionality on that key set as well. So we'll kind of talk about the differences. Other than that, other than the display, which we'll kind of talk about the features, all the features on the display will be the same throughout all the different levels of phones. So you don't have to worry about someone having a feature you don't have. It's just using that navigation key is a little bit different. But all the other buttons that you see, little symbols along either side of the keypad, those are going to be the same functionality and work exactly the same. So as we go through, you're going to be dealing with the same kind of function. Just remember, one's a touch screen and the other one is going to be using a little navigation tool, and I'll show you how that works. Here's the 6930 phone. 6930 phone is one that is not touchscreen. You can see that we've added buttons on either side of the display. So to access one of the features, or to answer a call or make a call, whatever you're doing, you'll press the little button corresponding to the display. And then you see that they've added a silver navigation key that allows you to scroll, up and down and left and right. And when you hit the little center, it'll select. And then they have this row of buttons at the bottom. At the very bottom line, you can kind of see it in gray on the picture up here, but in that little bottom is dynamic. It changes depending on the conditions of the phone. Like when the phone's idle, it's going to offer you redial, but when a call comes in, it's going to offer you transfer or conference or hang up, that kind of thing. So you're going to see this change when you're on the call. There is no actual transfer key on the phone. It's one of these soft keys when the opportunity is there. So it's only offering it when you're on a call and ready to do a transfer. So we'll kind of talk about that. And now, just like this 6930 phone, the 6920 is out there also, and that's identical to the 30. The only difference is it doesn't have an additional row of buttons. So you have a few less keys on each of the screens. And I'll show you that you have multiple screens on these phones, so you can actually, you'll have some real estate available that you can set up some outside numbers or extension numbers, so it's pretty slick, regardless of what style phone you have. Again, all the buttons on either side of the keypad are exactly the same. They function exactly the same. And really, the functionality is the same in the display. It's just a matter, are you going to touch the display or the button next to it? And, you know, kind of where do the buttons line up, depending on what style phone you have. So let's look a little deeper here. Here's the navigation tool I was talking about. You'll see that if you see that little circle on your phone, then you either have a 6930 or a 6920. You won't, again, have it on the 40s because that's touchscreen. You don't need to navigate. The way it's laid out is left, right, up, and down are just the outside ring. The very center is select. So if you, an example of that would be if you go through your call history and you went through your missed calls, you saw you missed a call, you could scroll over to that call using the little right or left button. And then when you land on it, you can hit the very center to select it, and that would call it. It'll also offer it on that soft key. When you scroll over to a name, it's going to offer down below to dial, and I'll show you what that looks like. But this is your navigation key. So this should pretty much look like most of your guys' phones. It'd be laid out a little differently. Obviously, if you're on a 6920 phone, this page in D&D would be on another page, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But this is basic layout of all your guys' phones. So let's start at the top and work our way over. So I'm going to start at the top. If you're facing the screen, top left-hand side, you'll see your extension number up there. That'll be your extension at your desk, so always displays up there. And then I am moving over to the right. You can see all these different little icons. Now you won't see all these icons all at the same time normally. I just put all of them up there so you would, if you see one, you'll know kind of what they are. It's just little indicators to let you know what's going on with the phone. Just really quickly, the first one is voicemail. It allows you to know you have voicemail, but it also has a light on the phone that will blink when you have new voicemail messages. This little person here means presence. It's a feature that some people will have called hot desking, which is the ability to log in and out of your phone. If you're someone who travels or has two locations, you may use that feature. Most of you do not have it, and it may be just a test at this point, but that'll show up if you're hot desk present. The little circle with the white line through it means do not disturb. That's when your do not disturb is on, all calls go to voicemail directly rather than ring your phone, and you'll see that little icon show up. And also next to the button, you'll see it light up a little bit. The little arrow here that's bouncing off the line that has a little 4 on it, that means you miss calls. You miss 4 calls in this case, but you'll see that little indicator anytime you're at lunch or something and you get back, you look down, you might see 1 or 2 up there that calls you may have missed. And if they didn't leave you a voicemail, it's kind of nice to know that someone called, and you can check your call history and then see what calls you missed. The arrows in and the arrows out with the line, that means it's forwarded. So you can forward your phone. This is a manual forward. It means that it doesn't ring your phone anymore necessarily, and it rings off to a device, either a desk somewhere else in the building or an outside number. Generally, this feature for you guys would be used if someone left the organization and I wanted to forward my phones to the front receptionist, or this phone to the front receptionist desk, so calls aren't missed. That's a good reason to use the forward, but that just indicates that that's on. This is if your cell phone is attached to your phone. I'll show you how to do that, and that little icon shows up. If you're wearing a headset, one of our headsets, it'll show up a little icon up there. And then this is a little Bluetooth symbol. Just means that you're Bluetooth to something. Either you could be Bluetooth to a headset if you're not using our headset, or you could be Bluetooth to your phone. And if you're Bluetooth to your phone, then you can have your when someone calls your cell phone, it can ring your desk phone at the same time. It's kind of cool. And then you have this little boxes in the lines. That just means that you're connected to the network. If you're ever having problems with your phone, you might see that would be like red or something. But you should stay clean and green at all times. So I don't think you'll see a lot of that. So working down the phone, the more common functions that you're going to be using daily. So let's start just below the extension number. Over on the left-hand side, the very top one is your line 1. It says My Phone on it. That's always going to be the first line in, and all calls will populate from the top down. So your first call will always show up there. Where it says My Phone now, it'll show the caller identification number. If it's an extension number, it'll show that. If it's an outside number, it's going to show that. So it shows a little number across there. And it blinks when and it rings, of course. So you have that one call coming in. Now, if you have a second call coming in, say you're on the first call and a second one, then line 2 will come into play. Where it says line 2, it's going to then show the caller ID, just like the first one. And it'll give you a little ring indicator. It won't ring and ring and ring. It'll give you a little spurt to let you know there's another call coming in. It'll show you caller identification information, and you can make a determination if you want to go to voicemail or if you want to go ahead and grab the call. So that's your 2 lines in. Any blank keys that you see, you got a couple here. These blank keys are going to be for you to program. It could be a outside number, an extension number that you're dialing a lot, or maybe it's a feature. There's a couple features that you can add to this as well. One of them being like your cell phone, which you see the little icon up here. There's a couple different ways your cell phone can come into play with this phone. And one of the ways is that you can Bluetooth to it, and that will download all your contacts into the phone. So when you're connected, you can access your contacts list from your cell phone on your desk phone, which is a nice feature. Also, when your cell phone rings, like someone's just calling your cell phone number, you can make it a button where you can pick that cell phone call up on your desk phone. So that way you're not going between the 2 devices. So if your desk phone's a little more comfortable, that's a good way to do it. Just kind of tether those 2 together by Bluetoothing them together. And I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty simple, actually. Any other blank key, it can be outside numbers, extension numbers, whatever you like. Remember, if it's an outside number, you're going to put a 9 and the area code, and that's the number you'll use when you're setting it up. These 2 keys work together, these 2 bottom keys, handoff and cell phone on and off. So let's start at the bottom one first. So cell phone on and off, that makes it so your cell phone and your desk phone ring together. So this is similar to what we were talking about with that button, where when someone calls your cell phone number, it'll ring and you can pick it up at your desk phone if you had the button. Now this one's different, where it would be someone calling your desk phone. So if someone's calling your extension number, or calling your direct dial number, or calling in from the operator and transferred to your phone, it'll ring both your cell phone and your desk phone, so that way you can pick up one or pick up the other, depending on if you're traveling or you're back in the back or whatever is going on, you're at the printer or whatever. And the reason why we turn it on and off is because when you're sitting at your desk, you might not want your cell phone going off every 2 seconds, if you've got a lot of calls coming in. So you can turn that off while you're sitting at your desk, but when you leave for the day, or you're leaving for a trip, or you're traveling to another location, you can turn it on, and then you'll be able to grab those calls as they come in. The nice part about doing this also is if even though they're ringing your cell phone at the same time, they always end up in your desk voicemail, desk phone voicemail, so you don't have to have 2 places to look for your cell phone calls. So it's nice. Now the handoff comes into play when I'm getting a phone call to my desk, and say I'm talking on the phone and it's 5 o'clock, I need to walk out the door, I can hand that call off to my cell phone. So I'll just press that button, it'll ring my cell phone, and I can pick up my cell phone and walk out the door. So it's a nice way to hand it off. Also, if I have my cell phone on, where it's ringing both devices and someone calls my desk phone, but I pick it up on my cell phone, I can then hand it off to my desk phone. So that's a nice way to hand it back and forth. But that's only for calls that come inbound to your desk phone. So you can see where it's kind of nice to also have the cell phone Bluetooth to it as well, because then I can answer all my calls from my desk phone if I wanted to, which is really nice. I'm not going to talk about this grayed out area yet, this little gray area, because that changes. That's that dynamic area. But let's move over to the other side. First one is your page. You'll press the page button and then the page zone. There should be a list of those distributed, and then you can put in the zone number and it'll page for you. D&D, that's just on and off like a toggle. You hit it to turn on, hit it again to turn off. Turns off your inbound traffic, and it's going to allow you to have everything go to voicemail. So if I'm on vacation or I'm out for the day, I don't want any calls coming in, then I can shut that off. Now, when you're in Do Not Disturb, it's not going to ring your cell phone also. So if you need it to ring your cell phone, those are two separate things. That turns it off. Again, you have some multiple blanks down here to program these keys, whatever you'd like. And then the center area is kind of a communications area. So you can see up near the top of it, it tells you the time and it tells you the date. And then this center area will change when you have calls coming in. It'll show you caller ID in the center area. And then you can see also it says redial, because right now all you can really do is redial. And you see these little dots, and there's 5 little dots there. That's because there's pages. And if you use your navigation tool and you're looking at the phone, you can hit over to the right-hand side of it, and it will scroll to the next. Yeah, so here's the second page, and you can see you can program any of these blank keys there. So you got 12 on each page that you have to program. You can see right here it also says redial, and it has the extension. And you can see right here below is soft keys. You may or may not have this logout and hot desk key that will sit here. So if that's not a feature you have, you won't see that. But you will see redial. Redial will be when the phone is idle, and it'll redial the number that's displayed here. So right now it's just showing an extension, but it could have been an outside number that you dialed last or an internal extension. So if you really want to just quickly redial that, you just hit the redial soft key. Now this area down here in gray will change depending on the conditions of the phone. Right now the phone's idle, so it's giving you a chance to log out if you're a hot desk user, or to redial, and that's about it because there's not much more to it. But when a call comes in, you'll notice that area will change. And if you're using a 40 phone, I'll show you on that, the buttons are actually at the very top that are soft keys. They're little buttons rather than this little indicators in gray up here. So I'll show you that. But you can see that there's multiple pages that you can program however you want using your navigation key. Okay. Here's an inbound call. So that's we were talking about a little earlier. So here comes the call. You can see it's not doing it justice. The little white and blue blinks between the white and blue. They alternate colors there to let you know, and it's ringing. Keep in mind it's ringing and blinking, and you know what's going on. So let's just say I've answered this call. So I have this call. It's answered. You can see it's calling in. Once I answer the call, it'll offer me these features, which are going to be transfer, add user, end call. So you can see it changes the display down below. You can see now I'm connected. So I have the ability at this point to transfer a call. It starts a timer. It shows me caller identification. This is someone internal, and we're able to put pictures on our phones. So you would see the person's face, and it gives you the timer, how long they've been on the call. It shows you caller ID up here as well. And then I have my functionality that I would have when I'm on a call. So I'm on a call now. My choices are I can do a transfer, or I can add a user, meaning that I would set up like a conference call, or I can end the call. So those are the kind of functions you have available to you when you're on a call, of course. So let's just say you want to transfer a call. Then I would go ahead and press the transfer key. And here we go. You press the key associated with the transfer. And then I dial your extension. It automatically puts, in this case, Martha there on hold. And I can talk to you privately after I dial your extension, and you can say, great or whatever. I will take the call, and I can complete the transfer by hitting the transfer again. So and then you can see at this point I could also decide to add a user. So those functions are available to you, and if I add a user that's setting up a conference call, I'll press that key, and then I could go ahead and dial an extension just like I'm doing a conference. I can have a private conversation with the person before I join them together, and then I can connect the calls together. So there's your transfer. Press transfer, dial the extension. And then you can see here when we're doing a conference, it says join calls if I was going to join the call. Or I can trade calls. What that means is I can go back to the original person I was talking to. If I was going to transfer this person, I just hit transfer to complete it. So you can make decisions as you go along, and it makes some sense because let's just say I go to transfer a call to you. I hit the transfer key, I dial your extension, and I say, hey, I have Martha on the phone for you. And you say, no, I can't talk to Martha right now. I'm about to go into a meeting. Well, I could go ahead and go back to hold all the way over, and that I can start over again. I can say, Martha, sorry, that person isn't available. Or let's just say I called you and you said, hey, don't transfer the call, stay on the call because I want you to hear this. Then I can join the calls together. Okay, and then we're all together. Now I can join the calls together, and I can have up to 8 people, including myself, on a conference call. So I could keep joining people in till I have 8 people on there. If I'm on a conference, or even if I'm setting up a conference, I can always go to this what's called trade calls. What that means is it bounces me between them. So let's just say I go to transfer a call to you. I have a call, I press the transfer key, I dial your extension, you're on the phone, we're talking, and I said, hey, Martha's on the phone, and you say, well, Martha who? Who's Martha? Can you find out where she's from? I could say, rather than go back to hold and start over again, I can go trade calls and jump back to Martha and say, Martha, where are you from? Oh, okay, hold on, and I can hit trade calls again and go back to the person I was transferring it to, say, oh, they're from ABC company. They say, sure. I can go ahead and hit the transfer key to complete it. Or if you said stay on the phone, I could join the calls together. So you have a lot of options, and they're all available to you. The one thing you won't do easily is hang up on people unless you, hang up the handset. So be wary of that. Just hit your transfer and your join calls, and you don't have to worry about losing people. You can always go back to hold. That's like starting over, back to held, meaning Martha. So if I called you and it went to voicemail, or if I had Martha on the line, I hit transfer and dialed your extension, I went to your voicemail box, then I could always go back and say, Martha, I'm sorry, she's going, her phone's going to voicemail. Would you like to try someone else or go to voicemail? So you can see how you can handle the different calls different ways. So this is a big area for you guys, and it's going to, I put a little display up here, here's the trade calls and the hold calls. This is a big area for you guys. You'll see that change depending on the conditions of the phone. So you want to look to that area when you're trying to transfer, or if you're trying to set up a conference call, or you're just dealing with day-to-day talking to somebody and figuring out how to get back to them and that sort of thing. Here's what it looks like on a 40. The 30 and the 20 are going to look the same, but you can see the same features: transfer, join calls, trade calls, and back to hold are just buttons on the soft display. So you just press the display on the 40s, on the 6940 phones. So that would get you back to Martha if you went back to hold, and then there's your transfer key, so it shows up on your display. And again, you can see there's multiple pages on the 40, and you can just use your finger to push it to the side to go to each page, and then all your regular buttons are there, your phone, line 1, line 2, a couple blanks. You got your handoff and your cell phone on off and your page and your do not disturb all lined up there. So it's the same basic layout, and it does the same things. The only difference is you're pressing the buttons associated to it on the 20s and the 30s, but on the 40s you're touching the display itself. And I don't think there's a lot of these 40s out there, but I just want to make sure you know the difference. Otherwise it's going to work pretty much the same. Okay. So let's kind of talk about the keys, and this will be the keys that are standard on all the phones that we have, that we offer. So what we're going to do is start over on the left-hand side at the very top, and we're going to work our way down, and then we'll go over to the right-hand side at the top and work our way down there, so you'll know what everything does. We use a lot of symbols, so it can make it a little more complex, but you can see that the basic functionality of the phone is all listed up there. Transfer is right there. The conference, you don't have to worry about a symbol for any of that. That's right there. So there's just more features. So mostly, especially on this on the left-hand side, it's going to be all little features that are available to you. And then on the right-hand side, it's going to be more call handling. So let's go ahead and get rolling. So the first one is your contacts key. When you press that, it's going to take you to a list in your display of your contacts. contacts. It looks like this. So this happens to be 30 that we're looking at, but you can see you use your navigation key. Now it looks the same for a 40, but you'll just press the display rather than use a navigation key. Otherwise, it's going to operate the same. You can see it separates your contacts out. There's personal contacts. Those are going to be ones you've either added manually by adding new. You can see that down at the bottom. Or it's going to be ones that when you go into call history that you want to keep, you can add them to you as a contact, and it'll put them in your personal contacts. This also has contacts for mobile. You can see it says 10 next to it. So if you do sync up, Bluetooth up your mobile phone, you can enjoy seeing your contacts there. And then your corporate contacts, that's going to be everybody in the company. And it's a little bit different on that one. I won't give you a list to scroll down. It just lets you put in the name, and you'll be using the last name. So if I don't know what your extension number is, I can go use my navigation tool, scroll over, and select name, and then I can go ahead and type in using the keys on the telephone as much of the last name as you think will get you there. But what I mean by that is if your last name starts with a B, you could just put a single B in there and it'll show all the B's, and you could just scroll down until you find the person. Or if you want to get closer to it, obviously put in 2, 3, 4 letters. The more you put in, the closer you're going to get. And then you can dial that, or remember, you can hit the center of the navigation key, that little circle, and that'll also dial it when you are highlighted on that name. Okay. So a little bit different there. When you're using the 40, it's kind of cool when you press up where the name is, it brings up a little keyboard, so it makes it a little easier to type in, basically use your fingers to type in the last name. So that's what the contacts look like. Okay. Here's just an example of a search. So when I'm up there and I highlight the little hourglass there, I can put in the type in the name using the keys on my telephone, or of course that keypad comes up like we talked about. You can reset it. You can change it from numeric to numbers if for some reason it was a numbered, like number 12 conference room or something. So there you go. And backspace, of course, if you mess up. So this is, if you keep, so if I scroll over to somebody, a name in my corporate contacts or my personal contacts, and if I hit the arrow key once more, or the little navigation key once more, it'll bring me to their contact list. So if, let's just say the default number is their desk number, which it is. So if everyone's desk extension is their main number, I could go ahead and scroll over and look at their mobile phone and call that. So it gives you a little more information you might use. Next button down is your call history. There's a nice call history. It's 20 of the last calls that you've missed, you've made, or you received. So you can see one list gives you all of them. It puts the newest at the very top, and then you can scroll down and look at missed calls, outgoing calls, received calls. And when you highlight one, if I use my navigation key, move over and highlight one, or if I touch the screen, if I'm using my 40, I'll be able to, you'll see dial will show up as a key down below in the gray area, or I can of course hit the center of my navigation key. Okay. You can see there's highlight. That's an example there. I scrolled over, and I now have the option to dial or add as a contact. So you can add as a contact in the call history too, and that adds it to your personal contacts. So if you had a call earlier in the day and I should have kept that number because I'm going to call that guy a lot, then I could scroll over and add that person into my personal contacts. I can also delete ones out of there if I wanted to. I don't know why you do that, because it does push the oldest ones out, so you don't really have to worry about that. But or I can close them. So those are your options there. Okay. Next key down is your voicemail key. So you notice that looks just like the symbol it did on the phone. When you have a new voicemail, or if you just want to get into your voicemail, best practice is pick up the handset and hit the key, the voicemail key. It'll ask for your passcode. Your passcode is going to be 1111 by default, but the first time you go in, it's going to take you through a tutorial that's going to help you set up your brand new voicemail box, which will mean you'll need a new passcode. It can't be 1111 again. So you'll need something else on that. You'll put in a greeting and your name, and you're going to be all set. So it'll walk you through that tutorial. Not a lot to it. Once you're set up on a daily basis, really easy. You just press the button, put in your new passcode. It'll ask for it, and then you're in. You can listen to new messages, save messages. You can go into personal options and change your greeting. So there's a lot you can do there. The next button down is your settings key. So that's where you get to all the basic settings of the phone. I'm going to show you a little bit. It looks a little bit different on the 40 than the 20, but the same options apply. Your display will look similar to this. The ones you really have to worry about are the ones I circled. You don't have teleworkers that you have to worry about, I don't think. That's going to be IT, if there's any, not really you. So if you got home and you had some choppiness and you had one of these phones at home, they have some settings in here for that. So you'll see that as you go along. But the biggies are going to be the ones I circled. The first one being call forward. The call forward will allow you to put in a phone number when you press it. So you put in 9 and the area code and phone number, and then you can forward all your phones to another destination. Most of this is going to be used if you were ever gone for an extended amount of time and you need your calls to forward somewhere kind of more permanently, because this won't go to your voicemail when you use the manual call forward. And you can see you can do some conditional forwarding, only if you're busy for internal or external or no answer. So you can set up some other functionality, but really you won't use this much because you have that cell phone that you can have ring at the same time. So if you're using that, there's really no point in forwarding the phone unless you can think of a reason to, and then you know where that function is. The Bluetooth, this is going to be, we talked about earlier, so I got my cell phone and now I want to go ahead and set it up. If you have a fairly modern car and you have like, cell phone integration or Bluetooth to your car, it's almost identical to that. As a matter of fact, when I travel, I always get in the car and I always pair up my cell phone to the car. And it looks almost identical to the one I just did, as a matter of fact. So what you do is you'll select that little icon for Bluetooth. It'll say press press to turn on the soft key to enable the Bluetooth. So you just hit the turn on. Really simple. You'll notice up top that icon will then show up in your display. Okay. And then it's going to show you the available devices, and you want to make sure that Bluetooth is turned on your cell phone, because it'll show you a number to make sure you're not pairing up with someone else's phone. So it's going to show you all your available devices. So you just use your navigation key, or if you're using a 40, you scroll over. Now this would only be for the 30s or the 40s. So you scroll over, pick the phone you want to do, or the device you want to pair, and you hit the center of the key or select. You hit pair or hit pair, and it'll begin a process where it says pairing, and then it'll say connected successfully. And then you are paired up with your phone. Now you can download your cell phone. Now step 2 to that would be holding down that key and selecting a key for your cell phone. You'll see cell phone. I want to remember the verbiage exactly, but you'll see it says cell phone in it. So if you create the key, then you'll actually see that key ring when your cell phone rings. It's really slick and it's all paired together. And yeah, you'll like it if you like that feature. The other thing you're gonna want to do fairly quickly, I think, is change the ringtone. Ringtones are all really musical, but they have some classic ones. I don't know how you feel about it. Obviously, everyone's different, but I like to hear the phone ring a certain way. The first week I had my new phone, my phone on my desk, I wasn't even aware it was really my phone that was ringing because it's so sing-songy. I thought, oh, it must be my cell phone or a radio I had on or something like that. So you may want to adjust that. If you're like me and you want to adjust it, you'll select this little horn, and then it'll ask you for internal or external rings. And then it goes through all the different sing-songy ones. But near the bottom of the list, if you like a more classic ring, tone, then you can select one of those. But it's up to you. You pick what you want, and then you can kind of distinguish what's an internal or an external call. And it's kind of nice to change your ringtone if you're sitting near a lot of people. That way, if you're at the copier, you can distinguish your ring from someone else's, that kind of thing. You get used to it pretty quick. And then you just save it, and you go back in. You can do it for external or internal calling. So those are some of the features you might want to look at. Here's your volume control. So each piece of volume is separate. Pick up the handset, you're adjusting the handset. Put on the speaker, you're adjusting the speaker. If you're wearing a headset, put on their headset, turn it on. You can adjust the speaker. If the phone is ringing, before you pick it up out of the cradle, you can adjust the ringer. So if it's too loud or too soft, you can adjust that up or down. Makes it nice and easy. Now let's talk about the other side. Now on this side, it's more call handling. You know, the other side was get to my contacts, get to my call history, you know, get to my voicemail, you know, not necessarily having much to do with a live call. But this side's going to be more live call oriented. And there's a couple of keys that can be confusing, so I want to make sure to go over it very carefully with you. First one is hang up. On a lot of phone systems, I've noticed they use that red symbol almost identical to that for hold. It is not your hold key, it's your hang up key. And the reason why that key is there, it's really designed well for using a headset. So you would have a button, you would answer the call by hitting the little speaker key at the very bottom, and you would hang up by hitting the hang up key. So that's your hang up. So keep that in mind when you're using your phone. Next is your redial list. And what I mean by that is you notice in that soft display when the phone is idle, it says redial and it gives you the last number that you dialed. But if you hit redial list, it'll take you to your call history and to the outgoing list. So let's just say you had a call that you want to redial, but it was 2 or 3 calls ago, then it takes you quickly to your call history list rather than you having to go to call history and scroll down to outgoing and then scrolling over. It takes you a little quicker. This particular display is showing what it looks like on a 40, but it's almost identical on all these features to a 30 or a 20. So it'll look the same to you. So that's what that redial does. It just takes you to the list so you can pick a different number. So if you just want to dial the last number you dialed, just hit the redial on that little soft area on the display, near the display there, and it'll dial the last number displayed up there. But if you want to look a little deeper, you can go to your list. Next button down is your hold key. So that's your hold. Don't hit the red one. That's the hold there. But remember, if you're on a call, and you want to place that call on hold and grab another call that's coming in, you don't have to find the hold key. You can just hit the second line key. It'll automatically put the first caller on hold. So you don't have to necessarily ever hit this key. But if you need to go grab a file or go ask a question, obviously you can hit that hold key there and it'll hold for you. And when it holds, it looks like this. It puts the little hold symbol up with the name. So you can see here line 1 where Martha is. She's on hold and it's has her name and a little hold symbol. That actually blinks in yellow and white, but you get the idea. Here's your mute key is your next key, and mutes the handset or the speaker. So depending on what you're on, I colored that in. It's not very good, but I apologize. But it lights up in red is what I'm trying to illustrate there. So if I'm on a call and I press that, it's muted. I can hear them still. They can't hear me. So if I need to cough, sneeze, someone walks in really loud, I can mute and then unmute. And then the last key is your speaker key. I'm not aware if you wear headsets, if you're using our headsets. I don't know if that's the case, but if it is and you're wearing one of our integrated headsets, then you'll just tap the horn key twice to answer the headset. So you don't have to hit the button on the side of the headset every time a call comes in. You can just tap that twice, and then again the red key is to hang up. So those are the keys. And then I want to go through your voicemail. There's a little flow I just kind of want to talk about really quick. Well, you're going to set up that voicemail. Remember that passcode again is 4 ones, 1111. You'll press that little tape player button on your phone. You'll put it, it'll ask for your passcode, 1111. It's going to take you through the tutorial. And once you're done on a daily basis, this is just kind of a flow sheet that I'm going to put out there. It just illustrates how the voicemail works. The first thing is you can play messages, you can make a message to send out to people, or you can go into your user options. Those are really the only 3 things the voicemail does. So it's pretty simple, but I wanted you to kind of see the way it flows. So when you play a message, after you've listened to the message, you have the ability to send it to another user. You can keep it, you can delete it. So you still have the same kind of functionality you had before. You can play it again. If you send it, you can put a message in front of the message before you send it. So that's really nice. You can give it to another user. It's really easy to give it to another user internally. Or you can answer the call, which calls the caller ID of the person who is calling you. So that's kind of nice. Now you can make a message here, or you can just dial someone's extension when it goes to voicemail, leave a message there. That's mostly what I do. But if you ever wanted to create a message and then send it out to somebody, you could do it through here as well. And then user options are things like changing your greeting, changing your name, changing your passcode. I'll make sure you guys get a copy of this. The boxed in area is all the different ways you can access your voicemail. So you can do it from your own phone, which we talked about. You hit the voicemail key, and then it'll ask for your passcode. You put in your passcode, you're in. If you're from another person's phone, you're going to use the star key to let it know that you don't belong to that phone. So you would press the key, would ask for the passcode for the person's phone you're at. You just hit the star key. It'll ask then for you to enter your voicemail box. So you dial in your voicemail box, and then you hit star again, and it'll ask for the passcode. So a lot of stars going on there, but you get the idea. And then you can call in from the main number if it goes to an auto attendant and hit star, or you can call into your own direct dial number and hit star. It'll ask for your passcode and you're in. So there's a lot of easy ways to get to your voicemail. Okay. Now, last thing I want to talk about before we're going, you guys are talking. You guys have Link or Skype, depending on how old it is, and there could be an integration to that you may see, and it's probably a little bit in the future. But I just wanted to quickly show you what that's going to look like. So once that's enabled, it'll just start working, and that way you know what it is. So this is what it looks like. So what happens is when a call comes into you, we'll provide a little pop-up. A little toaster that'll pop up, and it'll give you some call control at your desktop. So rather than using your phone necessarily, you can kind of control through these icons that are available. The nice thing about these are they're not very mysterious. They say transfer, conference, hold, that kind of thing. But it'll show you caller ID of the call coming in. And then you can do a dial pad. If you hit dial pad, it'll bring up a little dial pad that you can dial numbers. So if you need to transfer from your desktop, you can. If you're sitting at your phone, you probably aren't going to need to do that. But if you're wearing a headset, you may never need to touch your phone again. So there's your desktop or your keypad that shows up there if you want to use that. Here's your hold key, hopefully you can see that there, but if you press that, it'll place it on hold, so it's really easy to use the hold. You can go ahead and transfer over here, hit transfer, dial the extension, hang up the phone, or hit transfer again to complete it. No problem. It also has the ability to do a conference. I kind of skipped around there, but there's a conference button. And then there's a handoff. So if you have your cell phone linked to this, when you can also do the handoff here rather than having to hit the button on your phone. So it's really just a little extension of your phone. But once that happens, you're going to see this start popping up if you ever get that integration going.